Welcome and thank you for joining us today on the Salty Nerd Podcast. We're going to be talking about the new movie Snake Eyes, and we're going to get into heavy spoilers on this one, guys. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you go watch it, come back, and then check out a review. I am joined by my awesome panel of nerds, which happens to be a sausage fest today. We've got Matt Vader, 74. What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm here, man. I'm here. Live from my sub basement to the main basement. Yeah.
And of course, the hardest working nerd on the internet, Matthew Kadish. Welcome, sir.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, my child and Jude's child tested positive for COVID. So just out of precaution, we're doing the podcast remotely today, which is why the format is different and Alex and Vader are not in the studio. Jude and I are both vaccinated, so we're just taking extra precautions, but that's the reason for this. And unfortunately, the day that Jude was going to go see Snake Eyes so that she could participate in this review was the day we found out that our child was positive for COVID. So we instantly locked down. We're not leaving the house. We're quarantining. So unfortunately, she couldn't see the movie to participate in this review, which is why the ambassador of estrogen is absent. And this is a sausage fest, to put it as Alex did.
So we'll do the best we can, guys. We know the format's a little bit different, but we'll try to maintain that level of salt that you guys enjoy and that banter that we have. So we're going to have a good time today. I think.
Are we going to have a good time?
I think we're going to have a good time talking shit about this terrible, terrible movie. Before we get into it, again, spoilers, but we're going to listen to some sponsors real quick. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you like what we do here on the Salty Nerd channel, go to saltynerdclub.com and become a Patreon of the podcast. There you can get exclusive access to all kinds of really cool stuff. You get behind-the-scenes footage, exclusive podcast, blooper reels. You get exclusive access to our Discord chat and all kinds of really fun stuff. So go to saltynerdclub.com and become a Patreon and help support us so we can make awesome content for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Shout out to our new patrons. We got 3 new patrons this week.
We got a handful of new patrons, guys. Thank you so much. When we get back to the studio, I'm going to do a full thing thanking all of our new subs and have their names up on the screen and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But all right, let's get into it. Matthew Kadish, you have the synopsis for said movie?
Oh, that's Jude's job.
I know.
I got a synopsis.
Okay.
This guy that's not Snake Eyes is a total dick, and he goes and screws over a family, and they do a lot of ninja stuff, right? And then the movie ends, and Storm Shadow comes out in the credits. The end.
Okay. Yeah, the IMDb thing says a G.I. Joe spinoff centered around the character of Snake Eyes. That's the best they do.
That's the best they do?
That's
wow.
The best
okay.
They do.
So,
but I find Vader's synopsis far more accurate.
So this movie, I know we kind of talked about it when we reviewed the trailer or we reacted to the trailer that let's just get the elephant out of the room. Snake Eyes is supposed to be a Caucasian dude. And that's part of the reason why he is seen as an outsider within the ninja cult that he's a part of. I could totally, when I was watching this movie, I felt like there was an element missing. And I think that's what it was. It's because they always refer to oh, you're not part of the family blood. You're not part of us. You're not part of, they always saw him as an outsider. And the whole time I was just thinking he's supposed to be a white dude. He's Snake Eyes. He's supposed to be Chuck Norris, basically. So that kind of was always in the back of my head the whole time I was watching this movie. And I'm not saying anything against the actor himself. I think the actor did fine. He played the part well and his action scenes were cool and all that stuff. I don't have a problem with him in particular. It's just the idea that this character is supposed to be somebody else. It seemed very apparent to me when I was watching the movie.
Also, wasn't Snake Eyes a mute? He never spoke?
Yeah, that's
kind of hard to make a movie around a guy who doesn't speak.
We probably should have gotten the G.I. Joe expert to come on the show today, but I don't really know any. Well, I guess I do know a couple, but my biggest problem with this show is not really with the movie itself, because I went to the movie and Matt came to the movie with me. We didn't really talk a whole lot because the movie was going. But when we both left, we both asked each other, "Did we like this movie?" And we both said yes. I was sort of entertained. I enjoyed this movie. It was a good waste of my 2 hours. But the more I dwelled on it, the more I thought about it, the more I kind of got to the point where it's like if I was a G.I. Joe fan, which is what this movie is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an origin story for the Snake Eyes character in G.I. Joe. So you want your G.I. Joe fans to go watch these movies. That's who this movie is made for. It didn't do the character any kind of justice at all. This guy is a complete and total jerk through this entire movie. He's supposed to be a hero. It doesn't make any sense how they set this character up. You know what I mean? They actually set up Storm Shadow, who's a bad guy. He's one of Cobra's biggest henchmen. They made him the more sympathetic character in this movie to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like I'm way more interested in Storm Shadow now because Snake Eyes is just, I don't care. That guy's a jerk. He just he's a one-track character to me. And
Yeah,
you know,
he had his revenge plot. That was really the only motivation he had throughout the entire film. And then at the end, they didn't even pay it off very well.
Yeah, you know, we didn't get to see him in his cool outfit and suit, you know, or we didn't get he didn't like get his vocal cords messed up or his face cut. You know, there's no reason for they didn't set up anything that's supposed to be iconic to the actual character.
So before we get,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Before we get super deep into it, Kadish, what are your general thoughts on the movie when you saw it?
So, like, you know, Vader mentioned, we went and saw this together, and when I walked out of the theater, I was like, you know, that was a better movie than I was expecting. Compared to the previous two G.I. Joe movies we got, it was miles and miles better because those previous two G.I. Joe movies were awful, in my opinion. And I think that, like, if this movie didn't have the connection to G.I. Joe, like, people would have been, like, kind of going crazy over it because it was a fun, turn your brain off ninja action movie. Like, it was cool, and it was shot well. And I thought that the story was actually pretty engaging. And it was kind of funny because the moments where they're introducing stuff like Cobra and the Joes and things of that nature, like the Baroness and Scarlet. That stuff I found myself getting pulled deep into the movie because I was like, this is super interesting. I like how they're setting this up. I want more of this. And then we'd go back to like the Ninja Clan, and it'd just be like, that's not as interesting as the G.I. Joe Cobra stuff. And they also added in this weird mystical element, which I don't remember from the cartoons and stuff. So I was like, that's kind of like a weird mishmash with what they're going for. Because I believe G.I. Joe and Cobra, they were always more technological than they were mystical. So the movie definitely had its issues, but overall, like, I felt like it was a fun summer action flick. And so when I left the theater, I was like, you know, I enjoyed myself. I like this movie.
So there's a couple things that really, maybe it was because of my attitude going into this movie. It was really late night, and I was looking forward to it in general. Like, when I watched the trailer, I think we all were like, oh, that looks like a cool ninja movie. When I sat down to watch it, I kind of agree with Vader. Like, I didn't find Snake Eyes to be all that relatable. He came off as kind of a jerk. And again, like, for a movie that's going to be setting up, like, this is the origin of Snake Eyes. This is how he became a badass ninja. When we go from that opening scene where we see him as a kid and his father dies, and that's kind of what sets off the revenge plot, it cuts directly to him already being like some kind of a crazy martial arts badass who's like fighting in cages and stuff. And I'm like, there's very, very little training as far as that goes. Like, he's already Snake Eyes by the time we catch up with him when he's older. There's no point in time that I felt in this movie where he quote unquote became Snake Eyes because of his training at the ninja facility with the clan and stuff. Like, what was the name of the clan? I can't remember, but
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I didn't feel like he had achieved any kind of goal by going through this, 3-phase training with the ninjas. I was like, he's already who he is. His character doesn't really change throughout the whole film. He just, his allegiances kind of sway back and forth, but he's Snake Eyes within the first 10 minutes, and that's who he is at the end of the movie.
It's the Arashikage clan.
Arashikage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that change things?
I felt like his relationship with Akiko, the female security lady at the clan, she ends up rescuing him during the final test, and they kind of were setting up some type of like weird romance between the two of them throughout the movie. So, but I never bought why she was like so enamored with him, because she didn't she didn't trust him from the moment that he showed up.
Yeah. The character motivations in this movie were all over the place. Like, I know Vader, you kind of talked about how these two ninja guys, the guy in the white and the guy in the black, Snake Eyes, and what's the other guy's name?
Storm Shadow.
Storm Shadow. They have some kind of a rivalry going on in the G.I. Joe world. In this movie, I guess it kind of does it. Now that I'm thinking about it, it does kind of explain. But like when I was first watching it, I was like, why did Snake Eyes save him in the first place? Like, why does he have any loyalty whatsoever to him? But it turns out to be a ruse based off of the boss of the
Kenta
gang.
Yeah.
Kenta,
So Kenta is Storm Shadow's cousin, and he tried to usurp the leadership position that was rightfully Storm Shadow's earlier, like off screen before the movie starts. And he was exiled instead of being killed. And basically he now wants to come back and find a way to take over the clan again. And so he enlists Snake Eyes to help him do that by infiltrating the clan and stealing the object of their power, which is, I think, the dragon's heart or something along those lines. Yeah. And basically Snake Eyes is undercover at, working with the bad guys. And he's kind of starting to get torn between the honor of the clan and actually finding a family that, he's never had, and following through on his need for revenge for the death of his father, which is what we see in the opening of the movie. And he has like this weird kind of like brotherly relationship with Storm Shadow, whose name is Tommy. And it becomes harder and harder for him to continue to basically play the double agent as he begins to, actually like the people in the clan. And eventually, after he betrays all these people, he realizes he messed up, and so like he wants to go back and protect them. And by then, it's just kind of like too little, too late, buddy. But he does it anyway. And in the end, I don't understand where Tommy got the Storm Shadow moniker from, because at the end, he's on this private plane. He's like, "Call me Storm Shadow," and it's just like that kind of came out of nowhere. I wish they had set that up a little bit.
Yeah.
There's this weird kind of like mystical element in this movie that seems really out of place with like the huge anacondas and stuff.
It was a little weird. I would have went a little different direction with that whole thing. I mean,
yeah, like they have this this family stone, the family of Jewel, as you were, and it's funny, they have it like super guarded. It's surrounded by ninjas, and it's in this like secure facility that you have to have a DNA test to get into. All this crazy. They set up how secure this thing is, and Snake Eyes like just strolls in like casually. Like that's the other thing too.
There are no guards at this.
Well, he's a ninja.
Safe.
Well, yeah, but he never became a ninja. Like I thought this was supposed to be an origin story for him, but again, he was already better than all the other ninjas that he went to go see. Like he's already more skilled and more stealthy, and I just didn't buy it at that point.
Like, where did he get his training from initially? Right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're missing the origin story within this origin story.
Yeah,
and the weapons lab on the compound is more closely guarded than the jewel, the place that houses the jewel.
Yeah,
so it was very weird.
The mystical jewel.
Yeah,
it's just you're right, Matt. The whole mystical side, the fire jewel. You can incinerate people with your thoughts if you're holding the kind of thing. It's so weird to me to be implanted in this world. I mean, I would have been much cooler if that was like a family, some kind of ancient family gem that was like bestowed upon that clan to guard for forever. I would have been cool with that. And then maybe like Cobra or something knows about this jewel, and they need to steal it, to be able to like use it to focus the beam in their planetary incinerating death laser, something like that. That would have been way more G.I. Joe Cobra
freaking laser
in my head.
Beam.
Something, so the Cobra wants to steal the gem to power their laser. Easy peasy, right? But they went in some weird mystical direction with the stone and the giant anaconda snakes and everything.
Yeah.
And it was goofy, man. It was just goofy.
Yeah, and the ninja training itself too, with these 3 phases, like they talked about it for like a good 20 minutes before you actually got to see it. So I was amped. I was like, oh, he's gonna go through ninja training. This is gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like it was all just
You must pass the 3 tests.
Yeah, it
It's
was
like,
all just
okay.
like these generic, I don't know if I can say generic, but just like these real easy like tests of the mind rather than test of skill. And it was like, oh, if you ask if I can have the bowl, you can give me the
Yeah.
bowl back. Like it was like dumb stuff like that
It's
where
like
he's like, you have to fight me and you have to take my bowl without spilling any water. And he's
everybody
like,
knows how to pass that test.
yeah,
You
he's
know
like,
what I mean?
oh, can I have your bowl? And he just like hands it over to him and he passed the test. And I'm like, God dang it, man.
Just say please.
Yeah, so stupid.
The whole thing was about setting aside your ego. And so like when he asked for the bowl, he was like basically saying, you know, I want you to teach me. I want to learn from you. And this is the first step. And so he humbled himself in front of the hard master, who was played by Iko Uwais. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but he was like the main character in the Raid movies, which are some of the best action movies ever made. And so like it was cool, like when he showed up on screen, I kind of laughed because I was like,
I remember
that's that guy from the Raid.
You did. I haven't seen those movies, so I was kind of like going, it's like who is he talking about over here? So
he's such a badass in those movies. And like they didn't utilize him nearly to the extent that they could have, because in terms of martial arts fighting and stuff like that, like this guy is legit. So I'm kind of pissed that they didn't, you know, really show him like doing hardcore like fight scenes.
Yeah, I think the fight scenes, that's a good segue, is the fight scenes in this movie were kind of corny. They didn't really attract me the way that a normal like Asian influenced fight scene would. The worst case is I think when they were escaping like the docks, the fish market area with the docks and stuff, and they were driving away in the truck. And basically the crazy 88 from Kill Bill came in, and they all had samurai swords, and they stuck it into the truck, and it just looked like a pin cushion. And he was still sitting there driving it, and I was like, this is so goofy, man.
There's one thing I've learned watching the martial arts movies that I have watched, that if you ever get surrounded by 100 dudes with swords, it's okay, because you just got to run through them and they'll all fall down all at the same time.
Yes.
So speaking of cheesy action, so this movie has one of the worst action movie tropes that I absolutely hate. And I think Michael Bay is probably the worst offender on this, but it's the truck that's on the freeway that doesn't stop, even though stuff is blowing up around it and people are shooting guns at it.
Yeah.
So like, you know, the one of the big climaxes in this movie is there's a fight on this like car carrier truck.
Yeah.
And Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow are on top of it, and they're fighting a bunch of ninjas. And the guy driving the truck, like we never see him, but like he just keeps driving, and like people are like shooting automatic weapons at this truck, and cars are blowing up around it, and the people on the freeway just keep driving like there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And I always get really upset with that, because even though it looks cool, like don't get me wrong, it does look cool, it's so outlandish and so unrealistic that it always takes me out of a movie when I see that happening. Because like, unless they show like the truck driver who's got like his earbuds on and it's blasting heavy metal music so he can't hear what's going on around him, you don't really buy the fact that like someone who's driving this truck wouldn't hit the brakes and be like, what the fuck is going on? Like run away or something like that. So like this movie definitely fell into that kind of like action movie trope, which I didn't like, but it wasn't enough to ruin the movie for me.
There was a continuity error that really stuck out to me, and I'm wondering if maybe I just saw it wrong or what. But I'm watching it on like a giant screen, and I'm like one of 3 people in the theater. But there was a scene where Storm Shadow is talking to his security lady in front of like a screen of holographic whatevers, and his scar is fresh, like it has blood still on it, and it's in a different spot. And then in the next scene, it's got his classic scar, which is right off his eye, and it's already like healed over and stuff. And I'm like, it seemed like so weird because he didn't have it, and then he had it. It was like a weird continuity error, and I wasn't sure if this like movie had trouble in the production area, and there was like a bunch of different rewrites or something, or why that would have happened. But it stood out to me when I was watching the movie. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then a couple other ones during the fight scenes, and this is super nitpicky, don't get me wrong, it didn't ruin the movie for me, but I just noticed like some of the fight scenes when characters would land on the ground, get kicked or something, in the next cut they would be up standing and like in a different area and getting ready to fight somebody new. It was very messy, very sloppy. It just kind of told me that this movie was kind of poorly put together, I guess.
I'll tell you what was really messy and sloppy. So Henry Golding, the guy who plays Snake Eyes, he's British. and he kept moving in and out of his British accent because, like, you know, he's putting on an American accent for the character, but in certain scenes, like, his British accent just comes through like very blatantly. I'm like, whoa. Like, dude, like that's the take you guys chose for this. Like, you couldn't have him come in an ADR, the American accent, because it's very obvious in many different scenes where he just kind of like shine your shoes, governor. Yeah. Like, it's very British.
I guess I
Yeah.
didn't notice that, but I see. I get it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't notice that.
It happened constantly.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe I was just kind of I don't know. I guess I was just watching the movie of it. I didn't pick up on that.
I struggled to stay awake during this movie. I mean, I know I went to a late showing. It was like 10:15 or something p.m. when I saw it, but
Uh-huh.
usually, like, even if I'm tired, if a movie's really good and a really action-packed movie, I'll stay awake for it. But this one, like, halfway through, I just felt like it was dragging so much, and I gave zero craps about the characters. Like I said, I would have been able to attach myself to Snake Eyes if it was an actual, like, origin story for him and he
Mhm.
was learning to become a badass ninja, but he was already that. He was already good. He knew everything he needed to know, and his training was like just
Yeah.
nothing. So
Yeah.
It's like his training wasn't to become a ninja. His training was to become a trusted member of the clan, so they could treat him like a brother. You know, and he
Yeah.
failed because, you know, he was a jerk and he turned his back on him every chance he got.
yeah,
And I don't like to think of Snake Eyes like that. You know, any GI Joe character, I don't think of having a deceptive germ in their body. You know, it kind of takes me out of it a little bit.
Yeah,
Because
you were at-
I like the other characters in the show. You know, I thought, you know, Scarlet and the Baroness and you know, the guy who plays Storm Shadow, they're all well cast for the roles that they played. I don't have any issues with any of them. You know, I've said it before. I'm not huge into GI Joe or the lore, but I know people who they won't even go watch this movie because they cast Snake Eyes completely wrong. And I get it. I get it. But that's not something I'm gonna, you know, scream about
Yeah.
a whole lot. It's just not my thing. But I understand that take.
Yeah,
that people are having
just
about this.
just to touch on the casting controversy. So, you know, a lot of people felt that, like, Snake Eyes as a ninja was whitewashed, and these are the people who don't understand the origins of the character, because the original writer, Larry Hama, who invented Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, he's an Asian American guy who created these characters. And, you know, like, he got the orders from Hasbro. He's like, you know, make Storm Shadow an Asian. And so, like, when he was creating Snake Eyes, he specifically made him, you know, a white guy, because he wanted to contrast that with Storm Shadow, who starts off as a villain and eventually becomes a hero. And he thought that was much more interesting, and so he wanted to give that arc to the Asian character. That being said, like, he gave his blessing to change the character of Snake Eyes to an Asian guy for this movie. But I can see why, like, GI Joe purists would be upset about that, because it is kind of like fundamental to his character. But I didn't have an issue with it, mostly because, like, I've never been a huge GI Joe fan, and the two movies that came before this one treated GI Joe like it just crapped on all the GI Joe lore anyway. So I was like, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it was actually funny, because there was supposed to be another movie called GI Joe Ever Vigilant, which was meant to, like, reboot the whole GI Joe franchise, and that was supposed to come out in March of 2020. And this movie kind of, like, came in and usurped it and came out first. And I think they're building up to a new GI Joe relaunch now. They may do a sequel to this and a couple other GI Joe origin movies, but it's eventually leading up to, like, a whole new take on the GI Joe movie franchise,
which is cool. I think it's a good franchise to be redone. Be curious to see how they go. I mean, no movie series based on a children's toy line and cartoon from the 80s and 90s is ever going to please everybody, not in this day and age. But I don't know, it is what it is. I wasn't super offended by this movie. I just didn't like how they treated Snake Eyes' character in particular. You know, it was weird, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing that I can say about this movie is just I was kind of bored throughout it. I didn't really attach myself to any of the characters. I didn't think their motivations really worked very well. the brotherly love that Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow had was so short lived, and it didn't feel impactful when they separated ways and they were like, "How dare you betray me?" I was like, okay, whatever. It didn't get me in. It didn't draw me in, and I don't know what exactly I would have done differently. I think if when I was walking into this, I was expecting an origin story, and I don't feel like I got that. I feel like I just got like a slightly different version of a character that I've heard of before. So it's hard to say, man.
I honestly wanted more Scarlet and Baroness. Like that to me seemed like a more interesting movie than watching like Snake Eyes infiltrate this clan of ninjas.
Did you guys catch the Indiana Jones reference when the ninjas were all walking on the bridge and Baroness and Scarlet pulled their guns and just shot them all and they all just died? I was like, oh, that's a Indiana Jones thing. Yeah. But okay, so Vader, do you have a rating for this? Do you suggest people go check it out?
If you want to just go burn a couple hours, get out of the hot sun, go to the movie theater and watch a movie, yeah, I mean, go watch it. It's fine. Is it good? It's okay. If you just want a fun action movie, sure. If you want to go watch a G.I. Joe movie, no, not so much. I'd probably give it a grade of somewhere in the middle, two and a half stars, maybe. Yeah,
okay,
sounds about right.
Okay.
So,
Katie, shall be final thoughts and give it a rating.
Yeah, this is a decent like action movie. It's not a good G.I. Joe movie, but it's a fun summer blockbuster, turn your brain off movie. I'd probably tell people to wait for home video or streaming because it's going to come out on Paramount Plus about 40 days after it hits theaters. So I would definitely wait for that. This isn't a movie you need to see in the theater if you don't want to. But it's a fun movie. I'd give it 3 stars out of 5, 3 Snake Eyes out of 5, if you will. And I had fun watching it. I thought it was a decent, entertaining popcorn flick. So,
okay. For me, I'm going to give it Snake Eyes. I'm going to give it 2 out of 5. I did not have fun with it. I think it could have been a lot better. The material that they had to work with, they could have done so many things that would have been really, really cool. But like I said, the whole mythology thing where they're like, oh, there's this magical stone and they get it out. And then all it does is like, if you point it at somebody, they blow up. That was very strange to me. I didn't understand why they went that direction with it, but 2-star movie. I do agree. If you're going to watch it, it's an okay action movie. You can watch it at home when it comes out on streaming. I think that'll be fine if you want to burn a couple hours or a night or something like that, but definitely not a theater experience for me. I don't think it added anything to it being on the big screen. It's pretty generic in that way. So yeah, that's it. You guys have anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I'm looking forward to seeing where they take the Joe franchise, because the Stephen Sommers G.I. Joe movie and then the follow-up to that were just really insultingly bad.
Is that the one with Channing Tatum?
Yeah, okay. Both movies had Channing Tatum in them, and I think the second one had Bruce Willis and a couple other people, but the second one was just so incomprehensible and bad, and the first one just was stupid. And so like, I'm glad that they're kind of like leaving those behind and going in a different direction with them. But like I said before, this isn't a G.I. Joe movie. Like if this movie was titled something else and it was just about this guy who joins a clan of ninjas and G.I. Joe was not attached to this in any way, shape, or form, it would have been fine. It would have been like a very good movie. But because it's in the G.I. Joe multiverse or whatever, it definitely has some baggage to it that weighs it down.
Okay. All right, guys. That's it. That's our review for Snake Eyes. Let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below. If you've seen it or if you're going to wait for streaming, let us know. Comment below. Vader, where can they find you on the socials if they want to chat with you about G.I. Joe?
Well, I don't really want to chat about G.I. Joe a whole lot, but you can find me at MattVader74 on the social media, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Discord at saltynerddiscord.com, hanging out with you and the crew. And you can also find me here on this channel on YouTube every Saturday morning around 10:30. Playing some video games poorly and hanging out with Mr. Kadish and just having fun hanging out. Yeah, that's it.
Right on. And Mr. Kadish, where can they find you at?
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish, on Twitter and Getter, Gettr. And if you want to check out my books, you can go to catersbooks.com. It takes you right to my Amazon page.
All right, guys, and I am Salty. You can catch me on our Discord channel at saltynerddiscord.com. I'm hanging out there chatting with all of our people and fans of the podcast and talking about movies and all kinds of fun stuff. Join me there. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and as always, stay salty, my friends.